In the world of politics, where power often rests in the hands of the few, the question of what is moral versus what is effective is ever present. This dilemma is particularly embodied in the figure of Niccolò Machiavelli, the 16th century political theorist who penned The Prince, a treatise that has sparked endless debate since its publication. Many have condemned Machiavelli for advocating unscrupulous and even immoral tactics to gain and maintain power. Others, however, argue that his advice is simply a reflection of the brutal realities of political life. So, the question remains, is Machiavelli advocating for immorality, or is he merely being a realist about the nature of politics? To understand this, we need to explore Machiavelli's views on ethics, power, and human nature, and how his philosophy fits within the broader context of political theory. Before we delve into Machiavelli's political philosophy, I want to take a moment to welcome you to the Unfolding Journey YouTube channel, where we explore the world of ideas, history, philosophy, and political theory. Here, we take a closer look at the minds that have shaped human civilization, offering insights into how their thoughts continue to resonate with us today. From the ancient Greeks to modern political thinkers, this channel is a space for those who seek to understand the forces that drive the world we live in. If you enjoy thought-provoking discussions and want to dive deeper into the ideas that matter, make sure to hit that subscribe button and join us on this intellectual journey. Machiavelli's political context. To better understand whether Machiavelli is advocating for immorality or just realism, it's important to consider the historical and political context in which he wrote. Living during the Italian Renaissance, Machiavelli witnessed a tumultuous period of political instability in Italy. The city-states were in constant conflict, with shifting alliances, wars, and the looming threat of foreign powers like France and Spain. The traditional feudal order had broken down, and Italy lacked a unified central government. In this climate, political leaders had to constantly adapt to survive, making difficult decisions that might seem ruthless or Machiavellian in nature. Machiavelli's personal experiences also shaped his views. He served as a diplomat for the Republic of Florence and saw firsthand the intrigue, betrayal, and political maneuvering required to maintain power. This exposure to the complexities of real-world politics likely influenced his conclusions in The Prince. The Prince, a manual of power. In The Prince, Machiavelli offers advice to rulers on how to gain, maintain, and consolidate power. Unlike previous political theorists who emphasized the importance of virtue, morality, and the common good, Machiavelli argued that a successful ruler must be willing to use any means necessary, including manipulation, deceit, and even cruelty, if it serves the goal of maintaining power. For example, he famously asserted that the ends justify the means, a statement that has been both revered and reviled throughout history. However, it is crucial to note that Machiavelli does not promote chaos or wanton cruelty. His goal is not to encourage rulers to act recklessly, but to be pragmatic. In his view, a ruler must be flexible, willing to change tactics as the situation demands. He suggests that a prince may need to appear virtuous, benevolent, just, and pious, while secretly acting in ways that are necessary to ensure stability and security. Machiavelli contends that appearances are often more important than reality in politics, as public perception shapes the legitimacy of a ruler's authority. For Machiavelli, power is the ultimate goal. He saw the political landscape as a ruthless arena where leaders must navigate alliances, military strength, and public opinion. For instance, in his discussions on cruelty, Machiavelli advises that it is better for a ruler to be feared than loved, but he also emphasizes that excessive cruelty can backfire. His advice is always tied to outcomes, what works in the complex game of political survival. Realism versus morality, the central debate. One of the key tensions in The Prince is whether Machiavelli is advocating for immorality or if he is simply acknowledging the grim realities of political life. To answer this, we must first clarify the distinction between realism and morality. Realism in politics refers to the idea that political leaders must focus on practical strategies based on the current political environment, rather than being guided by idealistic notions of what should be. Realists believe that political decisions are often shaped by necessity and pragmatism. In this sense, Machiavelli could be seen as a realist, offering advice that acknowledges the imperfect, unpredictable nature of political life. Morality, on the other hand, involves the principles of right and wrong that guide human behavior. Classical political philosophers, like Plato and Aristotle, placed a high value on virtue and moral character. According to this perspective, rulers should be guided by ethical principles that aim to achieve the common good, even at the expense of personal power. Machiavelli's views do not fit neatly into either category. While his advice may appear immoral on the surface, it is more accurate to view it as a response to the lack of stability and virtue in his time. Machiavelli's political theory is grounded in his observation that human beings are not always virtuous. They are motivated by self-interest, fear, and ambition. In his view, rulers must navigate these base human instincts if they are to secure and maintain their power. For example, Machiavelli's recommendation to use cruelty, if necessary, is not a call for wanton violence. He argues that cruelty can be justified if it is used strategically to maintain order or prevent greater harm. He even advises that a ruler should avoid unnecessary cruelty that could provoke rebellion. Machiavelli's notion of moral flexibility is not a glorification of immorality, but a reflection of the complexities inherent in leadership. Machiavelli's view of human nature. To fully appreciate whether Machiavelli is advocating for immorality or realism, it's important to examine his views on human nature. Machiavelli had a rather cynical view of humanity. He believed that people are inherently self-interested, driven by desires for power, wealth, and security. He famously remarked that men are more ready to lend their hands to the needy than to the powerful. This view shaped his approach to politics. Since people cannot be relied upon to act in a virtuous manner, rulers must make use of both virtuous and less virtuous means to achieve their goals. Machiavelli also understood that human behavior is inconsistent. He observed that people could be quick to praise a ruler in times of peace and prosperity, yet turn against them when things go awry. Therefore, rulers must be prepared for this unpredictability and adapt their strategies accordingly. This doesn't imply that Machiavelli encourages deceit or immorality for its own sake. Rather, it underscores the necessity of adapting to circumstances, even if it requires morally ambiguous actions. In contrast to the more idealistic thinkers of his time, who believed in the potential for a virtuous ruler to change the world, Machiavelli was a pragmatist. He understood that the realities of politics often require actions that are less than virtuous to secure a lasting and stable rule. In this sense, he is not advocating for immorality, but rather recognizing the difficulty of navigating a world full of conflict and instability. Machiavelli's legacy continues to be debated to this day. Some view him as a ruthless cynic who provided a manual for unscrupulous leaders. Others see him as a pioneering realist who understood the complexities of power and the human condition. What is clear, however, is that Machiavelli's work is not an endorsement of immorality, but an acknowledgement of the difficult choices that political leaders must make. In a world where power dynamics are often governed by opportunism, deceit, and manipulation, Machiavelli's ideas resonate with the harsh realities of political life. His advice to rulers is rooted in the idea that politics is a game of survival, where idealism must sometimes be set aside for the sake of pragmatic decision-making. He presents a world where morality and ethics are subordinate to the goal of securing and maintaining power. But he does not argue that morality is irrelevant altogether. Instead, his work offers a sobering look at the complex interplay between ethics, power, and human nature. Machiavelli's The Prince is often misunderstood as a treatise that encourages immorality. However, when viewed through the lens of political realism, it becomes clear that Machiavelli is not advocating for unethical behavior, but is merely describing the often brutal and pragmatic nature of politics. His advice is rooted in the belief that power, in its most practical sense, is the foundation of political life. In a world where human nature is driven by self-interest and where stability is often fragile, leaders must be willing to make difficult decisions, even those that may seem immoral, to ensure their survival and success. Thank you for joining me on this deep dive into the mind of one of history's most controversial political thinkers. If you enjoyed this analysis and want to explore more philosophical ideas, political theories, and historical events with us, be sure to subscribe to the Unfolding Journey YouTube channel. Your support helps us continue to bring you insightful content that encourages critical thinking and intellectual growth. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.